Recently, I was going through my toy house and updating things when I stumbled upon my folder of old designs. I rediscovered the designs for these two characters, Metalmark and Moth, and I suddenly remembered that I had drawn an entire comic dedicated to them. By the grace of higher powers, I still have the files for this comic, and I forgot how bad I drew back then. But one can hardly judge me for drawing bad, especially back then. I was 14 years old when I drew that. That's right. When I said this comic is old, I mean old. This thing is older than dirt. It predates my old YouTube channel by a week. It was posted less than a week after the pandemic started. It's that old. But despite its age, there are still some concepts I like in the comic, like the idea of a forgotten hive. Going into Arc 3, I always had the idea of doing something about a forgotten hive. As the arc continued on, I had more and more questions about the history of Pantala, which ended up merging with the idea. Like, how did they go from all tribes are equal to Silkwings are second-class citizens in only 50 years? Wouldn't someone have tried to speak up or do something? That thought was further exacerbated by the existence of Lady Scarab. Lady Scarab was a dragon who believed in equality between the tribes. My idea ended up being, what if a lady did stand up to Queen Wasp as she began to divide the tribes? The obvious conclusion is that it wouldn't end well. Queen Wasp would likely kill the lady and possibly even destroy the hive, which would end up being a reminder to the royals to not step out of line, and the hive would end up lost to history for everyone else. I conceptualized this as a fanfic that you could insert into canon, much like how MLP had the origins of Queen Chrysalis by Inkros to explain Queen Chrysalis's backstory before it was explained in canon. This story would answer 3 questions: why none of the ladies at the beginning had ever tried to rebel against Queen Wasp, why there was no hive in the hills of Pantala even though it seems perfect for one, and also create a backstory for that one Flame Silk in Cricket's history textbook. As is the way with most webcomics, I never ended up completing it. I managed to get a remarkable 20 pages in. That might sound impressive until you realize that this was the quality level, and it also took me less than 2 weeks to make all 20 pages. After I grew bored with the comic, I focused more on animations, eventually leading me to where I am today. But now, I've decided to return back to the comic, both to make fun of past me, and to try and reimagine the story into something better. But before we really get started, if you're new to this channel, please think about subscribing. I regularly post both Wings of Fire and Warrior Cats content, so you'll never be bored. And to my current subscribers, thank you so much for supporting me. I wouldn't have gotten here without y'all. So let's take a look at the comic. We're on page 1, and already we are not going strong. It says Wasp Hive, but this is supposed to be Moth Hive, and it says Inspection Day. It has vines going off of Moth Hive. It's supposed to be webs. Understand the vines down here, but these are just blatantly supposed to be webs. I have no clue why it looks like the signs were bitten on, considering it's a brand new hive, and also the clouds are gray for no real reason. Page 2, my lady Queen Wasp has arrived already, but I thought and then there's Queen Wasp, but she doesn't have any crown, she's just yellow, and that's a mind-controlled hive wing. I have no clue what's going on with the plot. I'm gonna try and explain it in a minute once I'm done reading through the comic, and none of my explanations will ever make sense because I have no clue what in the world I was thinking back then. As you can see, I'm already going strong with being incredibly lazy when it comes to designs. Even back then, we can see like literal just 4 stripes on this hive wing, and I call it a day. And these wings look like a Silkwing's wings because I can't draw Pantalian wings. And it says, my queen, and then this is her bowing. For some reason, her spine curves all the way inwards, and we do not see her back legs, even though we probably should. And it says, Moth, and she's looking down on Moth. She's slitted eyes, that's how you know she's evil. Let's take a walk. And I don't know why this panel of her just looking down on Moth, and it doesn't even connect to the speech bubble right here. It's just a floating panel of her looking down on Moth. Let's take a walk. You've been in control of this hive for 5 months. The hive has experienced explosive growth under your new rule. But we aren't talking about the hive, we're talking about you. And there's literally no scenery. She says, let's take a walk, and then they just walk through the void. I could have like placed a fountain there. Fountains are fairly easy to draw from above, but I was being incredibly lazy. And I guess Lady Moth has a tiara now? Wait, where does the tiara appear? Okay, between pages 2 and 3, Lady Moth gains a tiara, but Queen Wasp doesn't have a crown. And it says, your parents, Lady Mayfly and Tick, you never met Tick, but Lady Mayfly's legacy still lives on. Seeing as you've been ruling this hive for long enough, it is time to give you a task. This is just exposition dumping. Queen Wasp knows that Lady Moth knows who her parents are. I mean, this could be her just trying to intimidate Lady Moth for some reason. I don't know. I don't understand Queen Wasp. Well, I don't either. Legacy is what a dragon leaves behind. I want my Flame Silks to have a legacy, and by that I mean dragonettes. I understand what I was trying to do here, but the posing just makes it look like there's 3 Queen Wasps in this panel, like one of her powers is cloning. And in case you haven't noticed, the text on all the panels is just done badly. This Q is next to the line art for this bubble. This Y is going out into the background. And none of the speech bubbles are pure circles, they're all drawn by hand, which could be a cool concept if I actually knew how to draw back then. A flame silk in my hive isn't a good idea. You'll do this, or do you want this hive to be called Scarab Hive? And Queen Wasp goes cartoony for a second, that really isn't in her character. And then we get this incredibly terrible panel of Lady Moth's eye, where the mouth is way too close to the eye, and the eye is way too close to the horn, and the tiara, just, goodness, the tiara. Sigh, I'll do it. Good, we will be arriving with the Flame Silk in 4 days, make preparations. This has to be the worst panel yet. It looks like all the dragons got stretched out. Oh my goodness, they don't even have ears! They don't even have ears! And then there's just a panel of Lady Moth, and she's aura farming, I guess. And then it just switches into moth shots for no reason. It hasn't done it all up to this point. It's been in third person, but suddenly it's now in first person. That's me, the lady who was just walked over by Queen Wasp, who will never live up to her mother. Arg. And then this character goes, uh-oh, this character is Dirt Dauber, and he is the queen's brother, but you will never know that by reading this comic. And it looks like he has 2 horns on one side of his head here, but it was me trying to poorly do an angle, I guess. What is it? Do I need to beat up my sister again, my lady? Oh, it looks like I actually said that he was Queen Wasp's brother in the comics. It looks like he's missing a horn there. Yes, you certainly need to. She treats me like tree stuff, something to walk on. Tree stuff can also be a roof. And wait, what's the difference between these two? Wait. It looks like I resized the text in these panels and I changed it somewhat. What is it, my lady? Need me to beat up my sister? Yes, Dirt Dauber. Queen Wasp treats me like tree stuff. Well, tree stuff can be a roof too. I need to know if she's ruined anything else. She rearranged the hatchery and the webs, gave new armor and new books too. So those things are supposed to be the webs, but they're green, so it looks like vines. And then it's just Moth being angry. I'll handle this, Moth, and make it something Wasp will hate. What are they talking about? I'll handle this? Does he mean all the changes to the hive? Thank you, Dirt Dauber. I'm gonna get some rest. And then it's arrival day at Moth Hive. I got the location right. Yay. Is everything ready? Should be. Don't worry, Moth. Metal Mark the Flame Silk. Angry yet calm at the same time, odd, not setting things on fire. This is supposed to be before the Flame Silk propaganda is sent out, so I don't know why it says not setting things on fire. And the yellow blobs right there, I think are supposed to be his Flame Silk spinning glands. Also, in case you haven't noticed yet, if the font for the comic looks familiar, that's because it's the same font that Animal Jam uses. I have no clue why I used this font and not, Comic Sans, the comic font, but that's just a fun fact. And it looks like the smaller wings are layered on top of the larger wings, but that could be me just not drawing properly. And then it's him, just like touching down, bang, hello my lady. And did his coloration change? No, I don't think it did. It's just, why did I decide to use an airbrush for his scales? Interesting choice. I'm not sure what to think, what to do. Welcome to Moth Hive Metalback. Wait, Metalback? I thought he was called Metal Mark. I guess. Okay. I'm just casually forgetting my own characters' names now? It is supposed to be Metalmark. Oh my god, I'm so awkward. Wasp is so gonna kill me. I'm gonna fail. Oh no, oh no. Why don't we tour the hive? Dirt Dauber suggests, and that is them walking down a walkway. It looks like Metalmark is already fed up with Moth. Dirt Dauber is not having a fun time, and Moth is not having a fun time as well. And they arrive at a cliff, and it looks like Metalmark jumps off it, and he flies into something, maybe? I don't know. Yeah, is that the final page? Yeah, this is the cover of the comic, so that was the final page. And, yeah, it's not the most impressive thing ever, so, I'll let, future me tell you what the plot was supposed to be. So yeah, that comic was kinda unique. The plot wasn't the most clear, and it's not the most clear to me, especially because I never wrote down what was supposed to happen in the later parts of the comic, because I was a pantser at that point, and now I'm definitely a plotter. So here's what I think was supposed to happen. Lady Moth has just taken up her duties as the ruler of Moth Hive, which is either the second or third hive to be built, and it is located in the hills of Pantala. Her mother recently died. I think it was originally due to injuries sustained during the Tree Wars, but Moth never blamed the Leafwings for her mother's death due to her mother's teachings of pacifism. Moth has one advisor, Dirt Dauber, who is the Queen's younger brother. He's the greenish dragon. If not for Dirt Dauber liking Moth, Queen Wasp would have disposed of her for being too young to rule. But Dirt Dauber likes her, so Wasp is stuck with Moth. Queen Wasp decides to send Metalmark, a flame silk, to Moth's hive for the flame silk program. Moth is lost with what to actually do with him and just kind of releases him into the general populace. Meanwhile, the guards that Queen Wasp sent along with Metalmark harass the Silkwing population, and Queen Wasp gradually releases edicts that make Silkwings into second-class citizens. Moth brings up her frustrations with it to Dirt Dauber, who doesn't seem to care. As Moth gets more passionate, he even threatens to report her to Queen Wasp and get her removed from being ruler of the hive. Moth somehow falls in love with Metalmark, only to learn that he has fallen in love with another Silkwing. Though she's initially hurt, she gets over it. Queen Wasp begins using mind control to infect Hivewing eggs. Dirt Dauber once again defends Queen Wasp to Lady Moth. A severe incident happens between Wasp's guards and the Silkwings of Moth Hive. Lady Moth decides that they need to get rid of the guards, but there's too many of them, and Queen Wasp would just send more. So Moth makes a decision to burn down the hive in order to create a way for the Silkwings and Hivewings to escape into the hills of Pantala and be free. She and Metalmark go to spread flame silk around the hive goes up in flames, Dirt Dauber escapes the burning hive and attacks Moth. Moth uses her paralytic stingers on him, but he uses his paralytic stingers on her. They are both flying above Moth Hive, which is currently burning to the ground, so they should just plummet into the fire and burn to death while being frozen due to the paralytic venom. Metalmark watches, goes wow, and then escapes into the hills with his girlfriend and lives a happy life. So yeah, the plot is a bit messy and nonsensical. It's safe to say that I don't feel connected to the original plot anymore, but I still like the concept of a lost hive and a lady who goes against Wasp's wishes. So I decided to reimagine it. So let's start with the reimagining, and I'm going to begin with the designs. Lady Moth was due for a huge redesign, and that started with finding a moth that resembled her current color palette. I feel like there aren't a lot of red Hivewings, so I wanted to preserve her color in order to keep her looking unique. I found this really cool moth called a Photopea, I think that's how you say it. It is the largest moth in North America, fitting for royalty. The patterning of the moth gave me ideas for Lady Moth's. I was planning on her having white, brown, and then red stripes down her body, but I realized that would look awkward and also make her look a bit like a corn snake, so I decided to just use red and white for the stripes. If you're wondering what the difference between the headshot and the full drawing is, it's just that the full drawing is a somewhat simplified version of the headshot. It's not by a lot though. I just hate making detailed designs because I know subconsciously they'll have to animate them later. Anyways, I gave Lady Moth some nail polish. At first, it was just an aesthetic taste to add some more sort of interest to her paws, hands, whatever you call them. But I decided that she should have venom-coated claws. That's somewhat nonsensical, but shh. When it comes to her personality, I decided to keep it the same, which is mild-mannered, rebellious, forgotten ruler of a forgotten hive. However, from there, I decided to do a major twist. Queen Wasp doesn't send her soldiers to keep Moth Hive in check. Instead, Moth Hive is the testing ground for the Breath of Evil. Moth Hive was chosen as the hive for the testing grounds due to Moth's rebellious behavior against Queen Wasp. Queen Wasp starts with creating a greenhouse near the hive, and then she infects the soldiers of the hive with the Breath of Evil. But she's new to this. She doesn't know how it works. So instead of stinging them, she instead gives it to them directly, putting them under the control of the Breath of Evil instead of under her own control. The soldiers seem fine at first, but then Queen Wasp realizes that she doesn't have any control of them. She sends out a scout, afraid that the soldiers will start acting up, and the second the scout sets foot in the hive, they get arrested and torn to shreds by the guards she infected with the Breath of Evil. From there, it's full-on zombie apocalypse. Queen Wasp sends out her own guards, creating containment zone around Moth Hive, but not much can be done for the dragons already inside Moth Hive, which brings us to Metalmark. I don't like the design for Metalmark. I didn't even like it when I made it. But I like the name, so I decided to search up cool Metalmark butterflies. I eventually settled on this one, the Northern Metalmark, which also coincidentally happens to be bluish and red. Now, I'm sorry about the wings in this. The Hivewing wings sucked, and let me just say, the Silkwing wings will also suck. I may be a tiny bit better at drawing Silkwing wings than Hivewing wings, but there's still a lot to be desired, especially when it comes to patterning. Look at how I draw Luna's wings. I hate drawing complex things like scale patterns, and Silkwing wings can certainly be complex. So, sorry about the wings. One trait of Metalmark's design that I actually like is the stripes on the horns and the antenna. The butterfly he's based on has those stripes, and I feel like it was a good choice to translate to his design, as it brings a lot of attention to the face, and I just like it. Now, let's get on to his character. One problem that I have with my original idea was the flame silk thing. I find it unlikely that Wasp would enslave the flame silks before making the silk wings a second class within the hives. It feels like one would follow the others, so I decided to abandon that backstory for Metalmark and instead have it start with him in Moth Hive. The restrictions on silk wings have just begun, starting with a relatively minor thing, and nothing has happened specifically to the flame silks. Metalmark is one of the many dragons just trying to survive the infected Hivewing apocalypse. He meets up with Lady Moth, who is quite simply overwhelmed by everything that is happening, and he realizes that his fire is the only way to bring an end to this. They do some missions rescuing other survivors and stuff until they decide to do one mission to burn Moth Hive to the ground, so they can finally end it once and for all. Lady Moth guides him to the cooling ventilation shaft of Moth Hive. Using the shaft will allow his flame silk to travel everywhere in the hive. She barricades Metalmark in and is killed by the zombies. Metalmark burns the hive to the ground, but thanks to using a type of flame silk safe to him, he is able to escape. He and the other survivors, including his girlfriend, make their way into the hills and live there for the rest of their lives. Then there's likely a huge cover-up, with Wasp saying that Moth Hive never existed. It's been shown that she can cover things up very well, so her hiding an entire hive wouldn't be that out of character. I think the reimagined plot is a tad bit better than the old one, but it also might be because zombies have been a major trend for a while, so I think things made as a part of a zombie AU or something adjacent are cool. Here are the original designs put side to side with the reimagined designs. There's an almost 5-year gap between both the designs, and yet I still can't draw the wings of Pantalian dragons. At least my general character design creation skills have gotten better in those years. But what do you think about the comic? Do you like the reimagined character designs? Comment down below. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe. I make Wings of Fire and Warrior Cats videos pretty often, and your support would mean a lot to me. And to those who have already subscribed, thank you so much for your continued support. I wouldn't have gotten here without y'all. Peace, Rogan out.